A Shadowed Virtuosity, Ravel's Piano Concerto for the Left Hand. Few works in classical music sound as dark, ironic, and quietly defiant as the Piano Concerto for the Left Hand by Maurice Ravel. From its low, growling opening in the contrabassoon, one of the deepest voices in the orchestra, to its sharp, jazz-tinged rhythms, the concerto feels like music emerging from underground. It knows something about loss, disguise, and survival, yet it refuses to explain itself. Written at the turn of the 1930s, the concerto is often described as a technical miracle. It is that, but it is also something warmer and more human than its reputation suggests. Ravel did not want to write a clever stunt for one hand. He wanted to write music that sounded complete, powerful, and self-contained. Above all, he wanted to make listeners forget that anything was missing. To understand how this extraordinary music came into being, we must first understand the pianist who inspired it. Paul Wittgenstein, A Life Redirected, Not Destroyed. Paul Wittgenstein was born into one of the wealthiest and most cultured families in Vienna. Music was part of daily life in the Wittgenstein household. Famous composers visited their home, chamber music was played regularly, and artistic excellence was expected. Paul grew up surrounded by sound, and from an early age, he showed real promise as a pianist. By his mid-20s, Wittgenstein had begun a successful concert career. Then in 1914, World War I interrupted everything. Serving as an officer in the Austrian army, Wittgenstein was shot during combat on the Eastern Front. His injury was severe, and doctors were forced to amputate his right arm. For a pianist, this seemed like the end of a life's work. Many would have accepted it as such. Wittgenstein did not. While recovering, part of that time spent as a prisoner of war in Siberia, he made a decision that would shape music history. He would return to the piano using only his left hand. This was not simply bravery, it was stubborn determination. He practiced obsessively, rethinking technique, posture, and sound. The piano became something he had to relearn from the ground up. After the war, Wittgenstein used his family's fortune to commission new music, written specifically for the left hand. He approached many leading composers of the time, including Prokofiev, Hindemith, Britten, and Strauss, but he was selective. He rejected works he felt sounded thin, abstract, or incomplete. He wanted music that felt serious and full, music that would not invite pity. This is why Ravel's concerto ultimately mattered more to him than any other. Why Ravel was different. When Wittgenstein approached Ravel, the composer did not respond with sympathy. He responded with interest. For Ravel, the challenge was not emotional, it was structural. How could one hand produce the weight, balance, and complexity of a full concerto? Ravel's goal was strict and uncompromising. The piece must never sound limited. If the audience noticed the absence of a second hand, the composition had failed. This philosophy shaped every detail of the concerto. Music from the depths. The concerto begins in near darkness. Low strings murmur softly, and a lone contrabassoon speaks in a deep, almost growling voice. The sound feels excavated rather than played, as if the music is rising from below the stage. It creates a sense of unease, even before the piano appears. When the piano finally enters, it does not do so gently. It bursts forward in a long, powerful solo, thick, heavy, and commanding. The sound is massive, almost shocking. Ravel makes his point immediately. This instrument, even with one hand, will not sound small. From that moment on, the concerto never loosens its grip. Illusion, carefully built. One of the concerto's greatest achievements is its illusion of fullness. The piano part is densely layered with sound, wide leaps across the keyboard, rolling chords and melodies hidden inside thick textures. The left hand moves so quickly and covers so much space that the ear cannot easily follow its path. A key detail lies in how Ravel uses the thumb. In normal piano playing, the thumb often supports rather than leads. Here, Ravel turns it into a tenor singer. The strong thumb carries the melody in the middle of the keyboard. while the other fingers scaffold the bass below and flashes of treble above. The hand feels reorganized, almost reprogrammed, and the result sounds strangely uncanny. Ravel reinforces this illusion through orchestration. He favors dark colors: bass clarinet, contrabassoon, muted brass, and low strings. The piano does not shine above the orchestra, it blends into it. The sound world feels heavy, nocturnal, and tense. This is not romantic showmanship. It is controlled strength. Jazz, marching in the shadows. In the middle section of the concerto, jazz rhythms emerge. Ravel had recently traveled to the United States and was fascinated by jazz, but he filtered it through his own precise, ironic style. This section often feels like a ghostly march. The rhythm steps forward steadily, almost mechanically, while syncopations flicker at the edges. The E-flat clarinet cuts through the texture with a sardonic grin, turning jazz into something sharp and slightly mocking rather than relaxed or joyful. This march-like quality links the jazz influence to the memory of war, movement without celebration, energy without comfort. Even here, Ravel keeps the music tightly controlled. A clash of wills. Despite its brilliance, the concerto caused serious tension between composer and performer. When Wittgenstein first received the score, he disliked it. He made changes for the premiere, adding notes, thickening textures, reshaping passages. Ravel was furious. Their disagreement revealed a deep philosophical divide. Wittgenstein believed performers should have freedom. He once wrote to Ravel, "Performers must not be slaves." Ravel's reply became legendary: "Performers are slaves." For Ravel, every note was part of a carefully balanced machine. Any alteration threatened to expose the illusion. In the end, Wittgenstein agreed to perform the concerto exactly as written. Their relationship never fully recovered, but Wittgenstein continued to play the work, knowing that Ravel had achieved something no one else had. A dark twin. Ravel composed this concerto at the same time as his brighter piano concerto in G major. The contrast could not be clearer. The G major concerto sparkles with wit and lightness. The left-hand concerto watches quietly from the shadows. Some listeners hear echoes of war in its darkness. Others hear signs of Ravel's own failing health. Whatever the source, the music itself offers no explanation. It is too controlled for confession. Beyond disability. Today, the piano concerto for the left hand is often played by pianists with two hands, yet it still feels mysterious. The music still feels like an act of concealment. Ravel did not write a piece about disability. He wrote a piece about control, illusion, and resilience. The concerto does not ask for admiration. It simply exists, dark, complete, and fearless. At the very end, there is no gentle fade. The music closes with a sudden percussive snap, like a lid slamming shut. By that final moment, the listener has not witnessed a story of loss. They have witnessed a triumph of imagination. And most never notice what is missing at all.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Virtuosity. Definition: exceptional skill or technical ability, especially in music or art. Example: the pianist's virtuosity allowed her to perform the difficult piece with ease and confidence. 2. Defiant. Definition: showing resistance or refusal to obey, often in a bold or determined way. Example: his defiant attitude made it clear that he would not give up his goals. 3. Growling. Definition: producing a low, rough, or threatening sound. Example: the growling sound of the low instruments created a dark and tense mood. 4. Jazz tinge. Definition: having slight characteristics or influences of jazz music. Example: the composer added a jazz-tinged rhythm to give the classical piece a modern feel. 5. Stunt. Definition: an action meant to attract attention rather than show real substance or depth. Example: the composer refused to write a stunt and instead focused on serious musical ideas. 6. Cultured. Definition: having refined tastes, education, and appreciation for the arts. Example: she grew up in a cultured family, where music and literature were highly valued. 7. Amputate. Definition: to surgically remove a limb or body part because of injury or disease. Example: doctors had to amputate his arm to save his life after the accident. 8. Uncompromising. Definition: refusing to change one's position or standards under pressure. Example: the artist was uncompromising in his vision and would not alter his work. 9. Excavated. Definition: dug out or revealed as if from beneath the ground. Example: the opening sound felt excavated, as though the music was rising from deep below. 10. Densely. Definition: closely packed or containing many elements in a small space. Example: the music was densely written, with many layers of sound overlapping. 11. Scaffold. Definition: to support or build something step by step around a central structure. Example: the composer scaffolded the melody with harmonies above and below it. 12. Uncanny. Definition: strangely unsettling or unfamiliar in a way that feels disturbing. Example: there was something uncanny about how full the music sounded with only one hand. 13. Nocturnal. Definition: associated with night or darkness. Example: the concerto has a nocturnal atmosphere that feels quiet and mysterious. 14. Syncopation. Definition: a musical rhythm that emphasizes unexpected beats. Example: the syncopation in the music made the rhythm feel tense and unpredictable. 15. Flicker. Definition: to move or appear briefly and lightly, often in a quick or unstable way. Example: hints of jazz flicker through the middle section of the piece. 16. Sardonic. Definition: showing mocking or bitter humor. Example: the clarinet played with a sardonic tone that sounded almost sarcastic. 17. Will. Definition: strong determination or mental strength to achieve something. Example: her will helped her continue practicing despite many difficulties. 18. Alteration. Definition: a change made to something, often to improve or adjust it. Example: the composer objected to any alteration of his carefully written score. 19. Concealment. Definition: the act of hiding something from view or understanding. Example: the music's greatest power lies in its concealment of physical limitation. 20. Resilience. Definition: the ability to recover from hardship or adapt to difficult conditions. Example: his resilience allowed him to rebuild his life after a devastating injury.
Comprehension questions. 1. Who composed the piano concerto for the left hand, and when was it written? Answer: the concerto was composed by Maurice Ravel around the turn of the 1930s. 2. Who was Paul Wittgenstein, and why is he important to this concerto? Answer: Paul Wittgenstein was an Austrian pianist who lost his right arm during World War I. He commissioned the concerto and inspired Ravel to write music for the left hand alone. 3. How did Wittgenstein's injury change his life and career? Answer: after losing his right arm, Wittgenstein refused to give up music. He relearned the piano using only his left hand and built a new career by commissioning works written specifically for him. 4. Why was Wittgenstein able to commission so many famous composers? Answer: he came from a very wealthy and cultured family, which allowed him to financially support composers and request new works. 5. Why did Wittgenstein reject some compositions written for him by other composers? Answer: he rejected works that he felt sounded thin, incomplete, or too abstract. He wanted music that sounded full and serious, not music that drew attention to his disability. 6. What interested Ravel about writing a concerto for one hand? Answer: Ravel was interested in the technical and structural challenge. He wanted to create a piece that never sounded limited or incomplete. 7. How does the concerto begin, and what mood does this create? Answer: it begins with low strings and a contrabassoon solo, creating a dark subterranean mood that feels uneasy and mysterious. 8. How does the piano make its first entrance, and why is it important? Answer. The piano enters suddenly and powerfully with a long solo. This shows immediately that the piano will sound strong and full, despite using only one hand. 9. What does the article mean by illusion of fullness? Answer. It means that the piano sounds like it is being played with two hands, even though only one hand is used. Ravel creates this illusion through complex writing and orchestration. 10. How does Ravel use the pianist's thumb in an unusual way? Answer. Ravel uses the thumb to carry the main melody like a tenor singer, while the other fingers support the bass and treble. This reverses normal piano technique. 11. Why does the concerto sound dark and heavy rather than bright and flashy? Answer. Ravel favors low instruments and muted colors, such as bass clarinet, contrabassoon, and low strings. This creates a tense, nighttime atmosphere. 12. How is jazz used in the concerto, and how is it different from joyful jazz music? Answer. The jazz section feels sharp and controlled, rather than relaxed. It often sounds like a ghostly march, with stiff rhythms and an ironic tone. 13. What caused the conflict between Ravel and Wittgenstein? Answer. Wittgenstein changed parts of the score for the premiere. Ravel was angry because he believed every note was essential to the illusion. 14. What famous exchange shows Ravel's strict views about performance? Answer. When Wittgenstein said performers must not be slaves, Ravel replied, performers are slaves, showing his belief in total obedience to the score. 15. How does the concerto end, and what effect does this create? Answer. It ends with a sudden, sharp percussive snap rather than a gentle fade. This creates a feeling of finality and strength, like a lid slamming shut. 16. Why do you think Ravel wanted listeners to forget that only one hand was playing? Answer. Ravel wanted the music to stand on its own as strong and complete. He did not want the audience to feel pity or focus on limitation, but to experience the power of imagination and control.